Those magic words, transparency and trust us, once again echoing from the nation's capital, this time over global trade. As for who is on the verge of getting the financial shaft, Congressman Mike Kelly is here to slap down the plethora of what he calls false leads and fear-mongering. Former Governor John Sununu is telling all about his time working with a president who needs another look. And in telling it like it is, the cop who admits his faults, yet will likely never be believed because it's all about race. It's about the facts. I'm Ed Berliner. This is The Hard Line.
I believe it's really important for the United States to stay active and to be clear about the role that we can play. When there's doubt, when there's uncertainty, when we pull back, it creates less chance of a more peaceful world. It creates great challenges for us. We're seeing the impact of that in Ukraine right now.
Today, Ali Shukri Amin entered a guilty plea as an adult for actively supporting the designated terrorist organization, ISIL. This is the latest in a series of arrests by the FBI and the Joint Terrorism Task Forces around the country.
School was closed because they thought they have a lead on where the criminals are in Katie'ville, and they shut down all the roads, 374 and quite a few roads in Katie'ville, so buses wouldn't be able to get through the roadblocks and everything to come pick us up.
This vote's about doing what's right for the country. It's about China out there writing the rules for the global economy, and if we stay on the sidelines, our allies will gravitate back towards China, away from us and away from our workers.
You, the American worker, the American taxpayer, are about to either watch as the president sells you and your job across the oceans and ensures there is more made-in-China goods than you could humanly shovel into the Grand Canyon, or you are about to watch as those lovable and trustworthy lawmakers will ensure America remains atop the pecking order for world trade. Dogs and cats will be able to live together, and there will be no mass hysteria. Speaking of which, the political animal is about to dig deep into reality, featuring veteran Republican strategist Ford O'Connell and veteran Democratic strategist J.D. Gins, proving there are indeed two distinct political parties in the state of Texas. No matter what anyone says, we prove it all the time. Gentlemen, thanks for joining us. J.D., I'm going to begin with you. Here's the headline from Politico. Fatal opposition among House Democrats on the eve of a vote for the president's trade agenda. What's wrong? Why are Democrats so upset, J.D.?
Well, I think it's important that we slow down and vet this trade bill. Right now, not everyone's got the chance to read it. And, you know, the Democratic Party is not just going to rubber stamp whatever the president wants. We're the party of the middle class, and we should be making sure that we're getting the best deal we can possibly get. And nobody should expect that the Democratic Party is just going to rubber stamp this deal.
Well, but wait a minute.
Something I think a lot of Republicans agree with.
Isn't this supposed to be good for everybody, though?
I think some people have questions about that.
Yes, it is. And what people don't understand here, though, is that if we don't do the trade deal, okay, what's going to happen is a lot of the countries like Japan and Australia are going to get sucked into China's orbit. This is about national security and growing the American economy. And what's happening here is JD's side is bastardizing the argument and playing on fears of Americans when it comes to jobs going overseas and lost wages.
So wait a minute, J.D., that's a good point, because a lot of people talk about jobs going overseas and made in China being more here in America than ever before. What about those, like Ford, who say this is nothing more than fear-mongering? Come on, get it done.
Look at the track record of our trade deals, and you look across the country and you look at how our middle class and our industrial sector has just been gutted, and all of our jobs have gone overseas. Now we're just fast-tracking the next round of that. I think the average American who looks at what's happening and what has happened with our trade deals in the past thinks it's the right idea to slow down and make sure that we're getting the best deal we can possibly get. Right now, we stand with the American workers. The Democratic Party stands with the American workers and the middle class, and so we should slow down and make sure we're getting the best deal. We shouldn't rubber stamp anything.
So, Ford, doesn't the GOP stand with the American worker?
Here's the great part about this. You need to jump into the 21st century and understand that we're in a global economy. You guys are living in the 1970s on manufacturing, and this is just not how it works. And remember something else. There's a part of this bill called the TAA, which, if the trade deal goes through, that we're going to be retraining those workers who've lost their jobs due to this free trade bill. So let's be honest, you're fear-mongering again.
So, Ford, let me get to this, though, because there are those people who say that exactly what J.D. said in here. They stand for the middle class. They stand for the worker. So I guess what he's saying, and some of the left is saying, is that the GOP doesn't stand for the worker here. You got to answer that.
We are standing the worker because we're trying to grow the economy and give the worker more opportunities. What's happened here is the unions in particular want to continue their dead-end jobs that are not part of the 21st century economy. Absolutely, we need some manufacturing. There's no question about it, but we need to be retraining the workforce for the 21st century, not stuck in past jobs that are basically unprofitable.
All right,
I'm guessing if we're retraining the workforce for the 21st century, Ford is actually for expanding access to higher education to make sure our workers are trained for the 21st century.
All right, let's go ahead and stop there because I know we're going to come back and do this again. We have other things to cover here as well. And I wanted to get both of you on this. And Ford, I'm going to start with you because it does hit the GOP. Christie came right out and said the Republican Party has not been very welcoming to minority voters. Ford, you got to admit, there's people on both sides who say that he's got it right.
He absolutely has it right because for decades we've been living at the presidential level in particular on solely the white vote. And yes, you can do that, but you're going to leave yourself a very narrow margin. People have to understand that the number of white eligible voters now is down to 73%. And frankly, we're becoming a more minority country. And the GOP has to recognize that it has to represent all people, not just white voters.
So, JD, is the left going to get that scared, I guess might be a good way to put it, if indeed Christie's right? Others on the right say, we have to go after the minority voters. Wait a minute, that's your bread and butter.
Well, you know, it's like Christie's trying to build a bridge into the Republican Party for minority voters, but it's not really moving. There must be a traffic jam on there or something.
Oh,
but
you had to bring up the traffic jam, didn't you, JD?
I got to be honest here. Let's step back for a second. In Christie's last election, he got 50% of Hispanic voters. He tripled the number of black voters, and by the way, managed to get 50% of women. He is absolutely right, and he found a way to do it, particularly in Arctic Blue State.
Okay, JD, so I'm going to let you answer that without going ahead and taking us back to the George Washington Bridge.
Sure. You know, it's true the Republican Party needs a strategy to reach out to minority voters. It's unfortunate that the right-wing base of the Republican Party doesn't like the issues that appeal to Democratic voters and minority voters. And so right now you have Rand Paul and you have Christie talking about bringing a wider net, but you don't see that really as the central piece of the debate in the Republican primary. And I don't expect that we will. I think that these are the kind of things that keeps Christie out of the race. And I think while he's right, this is the step that he needs to take or the Republican Party needs to take. I don't see it really moving the Republican Party in the right direction.
All right, 2 minutes we got left. Let's go ahead and stay on left versus right. Here we go again from the Washington Post. Democrats prepare for filibuster summer. Hey, come on, JD. It says right here the Democrats are learning right now that they're not afraid to be obstructionists. Come on, weren't you guys just blaming the GOP not long ago of being the party of obstruction?
The Republican Party sequesters, obstruction, and fear-mongering about budgets. All of a sudden, the shoe's on a different foot, and they want to pick and choose what their priorities are. The reason we have these deep cuts is because of the Republican Party, and now they're trying to institute certain things to come back and others that they don't want to talk about.
Yeah, but aren't you being just as bad as the Republicans, though, if you say we're ready to be the party of obstructionists?
No, not at all. I think we should have a conversation about the entire budget. If we want to expand our military, we should also talk about what the cost is of that at home. How are we going to be expanding health care? We can't just pick and choose certain things that are popular with Republican primary voters and expect that that's the entire conversation. The Democratic Party should be standing up.
Oh, really? Wait a minute, JD. Hold on one second. When we had the United States Senate under Harry Reid last year, what did we get through? Absolutely nothing, and we only got the vote on 15 amendments. Now Mitch McConnell has decided to open this up and play fair, and we passed 30 pieces of legislation. And now because you're going to hold him to his campaign promise to allow Democrats to speak, not just the Republican majority, and now you guys want to crash the country? Fantastic. Now you're the hostage takers. Good job.
I think for the last 6 years, the Republican Party has been the party of do nothing. And now they're only got certain priorities they want to talk about and other ones they want to leave on the sideline.
But wait a minute then, JD. If they're the party of doing nothing, then aren't you then the party of doing nothing?
Many bills up to the Senate, and Harry Reid's refused to actually take them up. I'm sorry. You guys have been playing to your base for way too long, and now we try to at least put on the appearance of playing fair, and you guys want to shut down the spigot.
JD, is that all we can do is just go back? I only got 20 seconds left, but just go back to being, I almost feel like somebody shooting raspberries at somebody going, well, you did it, so we're going to do it too.
No, I absolutely think that we should be talking about all the issues that are important, and that's exactly what this is about. The Republicans don't get to just pick and choose certain issues that are popular with their base and only talk about those things. We have a lot more to come to the middle and find the middle ground on, and so hopefully our Congress can do that.
Oh, brother, this is going to be a fun summer. I am just looking forward to this. I'm rolling out the blankets right now. Let's get ready. Ford O'Connell, J.D. Gins, gentlemen, always a pleasure to have you on the show. Always a pleasure to have Texas represented. Take care. We'll talk to you again real soon. Coming up next, John Sununu and his look back at the Bush Senior White House. and a few things you didn't know before. It's coming up next, right here on The Hardline.